after the DEF CON comments from Kanye, kind of insinuating that Kanye West doesn't need the support of black people anymore. He's moved on from that. Kanye's done. What do I mean by that? When I say Kanye West is done, I don't mean Kanye West's career is over. I don't mean he's done making music. I don't mean that he is at a point of no return. When I say he's done, I mean he's done with a particular group of people. And I think that group of people is niggas. They tell you not to beat a dead horse. And they tell you when you've gotten everything you can out of a particular source of nutrients, maybe, you move on to the next one. You see a bunch of ants or a bunch of insects group around a particular food source. They get all they can out of it. They move on to the next one. And I think that's what Kanye West has done. He's drawn a line in the sand and he's let people know that I've gotten everything that I can out of black people. I've gotten everything that I can out of them musically.
Okay, before we continue with Sean C's great rhetoric on this, just got to point out that he is a man of culture. Okay, a man of culture, I see. Okay, let's continue.
I've gotten everything that I can out of them fashion-wise. Now, has Kanye West explicitly come out and said that? Absolutely not. But Kanye West's marketing tactic specifically goes towards a group of people who aren't marketed to in the mass media. He wants a face or a particular group of people, a particular audience to be recognized. And that audience, at least from what I understand, seems to be conservative, alt-right. I watched his Tucker Carlson interview. Crazy, because it's beautiful watching Tucker Carlson pretend to respect, a black man in front of him. Oh my God, I found a black dude that can speak to my white brothers and sisters. A black dude that has garnered a certain level of influence within the black community, so much so that when he wears a White Lives Matter t-shirt, a lot of them will come to his defense, trying to unpack the layers, trying to delve deeper into the messaging, the intricacies, the spirituals of the hows and why he wore the shirt. It has to be a deeper meaning. It has to be something intricate. But when Kanye himself is questioned with this, his response,
because they do.
So this is a home run for a guy like Tuck. They're willing to give a voice and a platform to any person who is large enough that can promote the ideas that they've been promoting since the beginning. It doesn't matter if they're qualified to speak on these subjects, how experienced or in depth they go into these topics. They don't have to get any detailed response whatsoever. You're co-signing our ideals through the eyes of a black man. We're going to have you on. We got to get this on camera. And he's going to the crowd that he thinks can fund his next project the most. Kanye more than likely loses money making music, making albums, but I refrained from posting the video for two reasons. Halfway through, I got tired of talking about Kanye West. Literally just stopped recording. And the second reason was because I feel like he's going to make this worse somehow, and I don't want to make two Kanye videos. And lo and behold, he did just that. The first, most controversial and most important thing that I feel like should be addressed in the interview were his comments about George Floyd. I'm not going to spend a long time on this because for anyone that's buying into conspiracy about George Floyd, they likely want to believe that George Floyd was in the wrong for being put in the position that he was put in, likely want to believe that the reason that he is no longer with us is because of him and him only. So trying to argue with someone out of that ideology is basically a useless battle. And I have multiple links in the description. You can Google this shit yourself. It'll lead you to reports that determine how George Floyd passed away. But let's just say for the sake of curiosity, I were to entertain said idea from Kanye West and from George Floyd detractors that think he died due to an overdose. Would you still then say that the officer's actions in handling George Floyd were adequate? Would you still say that it's okay to have your knee driving into someone's back, pressing them against the concrete ground for over 5 minutes? Would you still think that even if someone were ODing, that those circumstances and conditions would only exacerbate that issue? I know that's not what was happening. Are you saying that what happened to him should have happened to him and that is how people should be handled? Because if that's what you're telling me, you're even less rational than I thought you weren't. Diving into Kanye West, he's beyond the point of needing social support. He's at the level, maybe not to the corporations of an Apple or a Tesla. He's at the level where preventing support of his products won't do anything to his bottom line, which is why it was hilarious seeing Lil Boosie's youngins burn their Yeezy, as if that at any point is going to stunt Kanye's career growth. It's going to stunt the trajectory of Yeezy. He's gotten too big to a point of social controllability, which is also equally as hilarious because he goes on in this interview about being controlled. And that's how capitalism works. You regardless of your support of a thing, cannot prevent its growth. So you can stop listening to Kanye's music. You can stop buying his shoes. You can stop buying.
Chauncey is so fucking sick. One day we will have him on the broadcast eventually.
His clothes, his garbage bags. You ain't stopping nothing. If anything, it's the detractors of Kanye West who don't have control over anything. Yet he'll complain on these platforms as if he's the one that's got the least of it. Talks to Nori about BLM, basically insinuates that it's a scam. Then goes on to give these ill-informed, almost YouTube-level conspiratorial takes about Jewish people, about China, as if the Chinese government just wholeheartedly just respects and supports its citizens. And I think it's interesting how Kanye West unintentionally shows anti-blackness in this interview. I don't think there's a problem with discussing the things that hold black people back as a community. But I do think it's an issue when you are so infatuated with the criticism of black people that you so easily jump onto other cultures, not even diving an inch deep into the systemic issues that they have within their own cultures, just to quote us inaccurate information about how well they're doing, compare it to black people in America as if to imply they have the same starting point. I think there's something to be said about black people's natural disgust for our conditions to a point where you don't even want to see where you come from. Kanye West is in the 0.00001%. That means he has expedient access, probably more than 99% of the population of the world. Best thing you can do to a people is try to convince them that everything that's happened to them isn't actually happening, hasn't happened, and they've had the exact same starting point advantages as everyone else. Tucker Carlson, Candace Owens, Jason Whitlock, bitch ass Jason Whitlock, are so easy to throw their support on him. Meanwhile, I guarantee you, if Kanye West asked any of these three, are you voting for me come 2024 when I run for president? They'll probably say no. If you think that I'm lying about this whole let's move the money to this demographic, Candace Owens' husband is the owner of the company that Kanye West is about to buy right now, this free speech platform. So whether Kanye West goes to Drink Champs or whether he goes to Parler, he is still being exploited. But I do believe, in his defense, that there is an end goal for him. George Farmer is the CEO of Parler, the new company that Kanye West has just purchased. Parler has had a tumultuous history and has been at the forefront of several scandals since its inception in 2018. Marketed as a social media safe haven for free speech, critics argue it was designed as a response to the perceived censorship of former President Donald Trump and his supporters. It cannot be denied that the app caters to a very bizarre and mostly right-wing demographic. The site is also a breeding ground for QAnon. The app was pulled from stores but returned to the Apple Store in May of 2021 after a new CEO had taken over in March. The new head of Parler was English-born consecutive activist George Farmer. Since taking over, George Farmer
is also British, which is like double L. You know what I'm saying? Like, ew, imagine.
Farmer has struggled to save the company. The app has yet to reach the membership numbers it had before going offline, which some allege was as high as 15 million. He donated £2 million to the Brexit campaign and was the head of conservative think tank Turning Point UK. His family made their money in land and metals trading. He's married to controversial conservative pundit Candace Owens. That's interesting. It's almost like this social media app might be a breeding ground for people who believe the same conspiracies that Kanye West has been spewing. But maybe that means that Kanye West isn't completely wholeheartedly genuine about these things that he's been talking about and just wants people to feel like they're safe in this new space that he's about to create for them. Possibly a new space too. I don't know. Market his new clothing, market his new ideas, a place for people to support Kanye West who don't necessarily care about the material and the music he's already released, but instead are going to support his new ideas because they align with what they also believe in. As long as it goes against this side, the other side will eat it completely up. And that's how I'm going to make my next 100, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 700. That's where it needs to come from. And that's not for no reason. Speaking of no reason, let's talk about no reason. We already know that Kanye West is being exploited from the right. I guess my respect for the right comes from the fact that they don't hide it. They make it very known that they want high up black people to promote ideas that they believe themselves. They just would love to.
I somewhat disagree with this take. I don't think that they do that. I think that they're demons when it comes to messaging and marketing. And they very openly will hide their overarching goals though. Like they never say, yes, I'm tokenizing a black person who is like, identifying and becoming a champion of white supremacist causes that I want to spread, they'll say, why are you actually not supporting this black man saying truths? You know, I think that they don't say, you know, black lives don't matter. They say white lives matter. That is inherent. Like, that is inherently hiding the truth. They do it so that they can reach a broader audience of people. That this will reach a broader audience of people that are not like immediately and you know, racist to the fucking core, but instead have, you know, racist opinions as a consequence of growing up in a racist society, that are you know, open-minded to the message. Because the moment that you openly state that you're a racist person, you're going to lose a big chunk of that population. What Kanye West is doing, as a matter of fact, with his anti-Semitism, I think is dangerous, partially because when you no longer have any sort of like shackles on that message, when you no longer are trying to hide the real anti-Semitic beliefs that you have, okay, you're going to reach a broader audience, potentially, of idiots who might agree with you, especially if they love you, but you're also going to lose an even larger percentage of the population who think, okay, well, this is fucking straight up Nazi shit.
To come from the voice of a black male so that people can't call them racist for it. You know what I hate about interviews, especially male-only interviews? These niggas will never hold themselves accountable in each other's face. No went on Hot 97 to talk about how he regrets his 3.5-hour interview with Kanye West that he
Why do you care if Kanye loses some audience? No, I'm talking about his message. I don't give a shit about Kanye West losing or winning his audience. I'm talking about the audience of the message itself. If your message is like Jewish people control the media and that must be dealt with, or whatever the fuck, as is Kanye's message, right? Then when you say it like that, when you use those words, you're going to reach a bunch of idiots who can't comprehend nuance and can't comprehend dog whistles, who want to hear it, want to hear you say it, right? But you're also going to lose a larger chunk of the people who would otherwise be like, well, hold up, this guy's got a point. That's what I'm talking about.
Greenlit, okayed, and ready for posting, bragged about on Twitter that it was viewed more times in the football game, that he's taking control over the internet for the day. But when Kanye West was in front of him, nothing. No sternness, no strength, no weight or depth behind his voice when he's talking about these issues that Kanye West is clearly misinformed about. But is it worth having a spine when you know that you're about to get massive traction in the media the next day? No. It takes a lot of balls to apologize to a family after platforming the man who just disrespected their family. Kanye, it takes a lot of balls to donate $2 million to the daughter of the man who was taken away from her due to the actions of a cop. The actions that you deny were even contributing factors to his death. I'm sure she'll be really happy to hear that when she gets older. No, am I asking him to take it down? Absolutely not. I would just prefer, and y'all know how I feel about people standing on their decisions, if he just stood on it. Hey, y'all, Kanye said some wild shit, but he a grown man, and I couldn't stop him. Thanks for the views. You know you can't stop Kanye from being Kanye and talking, but you can interrupt him. An interruption or a correction isn't silencing. It's being consistent with accuracy. Well, I say there's a deep evil in hip-hop media especially, because generally speaking, they are the most accessible content creators that can implement the quickest change for better results, for interviews, for perception, and information to the general public. Access that you wouldn't get if you tried to go to the head of Fox News or CNN. No, these people have the ability to alter their interview process. I find it ironic that Kanye West decided to have his interview with Drink Champs, owned by Revolt, owned by Diddy, who he just criticized for taking orders from Jewish people. I find it very funny that he did that. So when I see such blatant hypocrisy, it always leads me to believe that there's a bigger reason or a bigger motivation for having these talking points. They just seem so copy and paste. None of it seems like an original thought. It seems like it was all put together in some private headquarters where they're like, okay, Kanye, this is how you get the white conservative demographic on your side. Which, if he is doing that, objectively speaking, is good business. But this is also why I said he no longer needs black people, because his future business ventures will be off of the back of his new fan base, the fan base that doesn't even probably know his music.
And I'm jealous of the Jewish community. I'm jealous of the way Jewish people do business. And I'm jealous, not just for me, but for our entire culture.
Kanye West isn't jealous of the Chinese. He's not jealous of Jewish people. Kanye West is ignorant to the fact that when you bring in a people from another land and you separate them from each other and force them to work in slave-like conditions, preventing them from learning about their history, ancestry, or their lineage, you prevent them from being able to come together like the Jewish, prevent them from being able to stand under their own nation like the Chinese. Kanye West isn't jealous of these cultures. Kanye West just doesn't have a home. Kanye West just doesn't know where he comes from, like most black people in this country. That's why black people get taken from so much in this country, because black culture and American culture get intertwined so often. But if you tell Kanye West something like this, it'll force him to recant on those comments he made 4 years ago about 400 years being a choice. It would immediately conflict with a lot of his existing views that I don't think he genuinely cares about to the extent that he would go and research them in depth to make sure that he was properly informed about everything that he was talking about, because I don't believe the motive here is about information. I believe the motive here is about money. He sucked all the life that he can out of the average black person for about as much as he can get. We've supported him musically. We've supported him through his merch, but there is a faucet that Kanye West has not yet tapped into, and it is this conspiratorial, Trump is my brother, George Floyd didn't really die like that. It's the Chinese demographic of individual that he has not yet squeezed the life out of. And I believe that's his next target.
I think it's like kind of stupid business as far as like business decisions goes, by the way. Like if that's his overarching goal, which I don't believe it is, I think it's beyond that. I think he is a vulnerable person who is emotional, narcissistic, pushed away anyone that it could actually offer him any sort of like serious pushback. I don't think it's a deliberate way to just specifically target the white supremacist audience. I think he genuinely believes it. I think he has been duped into genuinely believing it. These outright fabrications, these lies, these old school anti-Semitic conspiracies and everything like that. And I don't think he has anyone in his life, in his support system, that can check him on any of this, because it's obvious that he is not used to any sort of pushback. And it's also somewhat of a bad business decision, because at the end of the day, white supremacists are never going to see him anything but a black person. They're not going to listen to his music. They're not going to buy White Lives Matter shirts. They're just not going to do that. The moment that he's done speaking about like Jewish people, or speaking about the Jewish media, or speaking about how black people are this, black people are that, they're done. They're done with him. So even if it was like a fucking, even if it was a legitimate business interest for him, it's just a massive misstep even from that point of view. But I don't think it's that. We're going to watch the man going to the most racist town in America. Don't worry.
If you ask me genuinely, I don't believe this is some public mental breakdown. I believe he's been gearing up for a shift for a minute now, and that marketing started with his White Lives Matter shirt. He's just going to keep going. Am I mad? Not really. I just don't like